Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Recon Done Right talk, a guide to a successful physical. We're super excited to be presenting here at Layer 8 and share our stories and knowledge with you.
Hi, I'm Rob CurtinSeufert, Director of Services here at InGuardians, and it's a pleasure to be speaking to you guys at Layer 8 today.
And I'm Zlata Pavlova. I do social media and marketing here at InGuardians and also assist in various OSINT and social engineering engagements at InGuardians.
So just a quick disclaimer before we start. This method works for us. You may need to make some small adjustments or big adjustments depending on your situation and your style of work. For me, I spent years inside of various reconnaissance units inside the military, specifically the U.S. Army. And Zlata, well, she's just Russian, and you don't mess with Russians. Awesome. So an overview here of what we're going to talk about. First thing first, we're going to define what recon is from a military perspective versus an infosec perspective. And it's really important because reconnaissance really started with the military. Then we're going to dive into pre-engagement intelligence gathering, OSINT, as some of you may know. And then we're going to talk about establishing a pattern of life. This is the first phase in which we are setting foot on client side. Phase 3 is analysis and planning. That's where the bulk, the majority of the work is going to happen. Phase 4 is breach. Phase 5 is sensitive site exploitation and exfiltration. And then we're going to have a conclusion. So the first thing we want to define is the military definition of reconnaissance. Very basic. It is the observation of a region to locate an enemy or to ascertain strategic features. For example, do these insurgents here have air defense capabilities? So we send a reconnaissance team in the ground, observe them. Do they have air defense capabilities? Yes or no? Do they have this very specific style of fighting? Or, you know, what is their pattern? Where do they move? Where do they come from? Where do they hide? It's a very, very narrow view.
And when it comes to reconnaissance in the InfoSec world, it's basically everything that you can collect on a specific target online. When we talk about reconnaissance specifically for the physical engagement, physical penetration tests, reconnaissance phase also includes establishing the pattern of life, getting familiar with the target location, so similar to the military definition of reconnaissance. The main goal of any reconnaissance is to covertly collect all of the data on the target. You want to make sure that the client has no idea that you even gathering all of that OSINT information on them. So phase 1, intel gathering OSINT. This is one of the most important phases when you're preparing for a physical penetration engagement. And OSINT is really your best friend for any engagement, including social engineering engagements as well. Why OSINT matters? It matters because you want to get familiar with the target, the client. You want to get familiar with the company culture. You want to find out who the employees are. You want to see where the target's location. You want to get familiar with surroundings of that location. You really want to have a whole picture of what you're going to be working with on your physical engagement. There are various resources available where you can collect all of that data And it's all going to depend on your goals and objectives. It's also going to depend on type of industry that your client or your target is in, because certain industries have less of the, let's say, social media presence or an online presence. Therefore, collecting the intel sometimes is kind of tricky. It's a little bit harder versus, let's say like a major retailers that are constantly online on various platforms, and it makes it a lot easier to collect information. Same goes to employees, because certain government organizations or like government defense organizations, they have specific policies of not having employees, let's say, on LinkedIn. So have to take all of that into the consideration. Also, with any OSINT investigation, you have to check multiple sources. Going on one site and copy pasting something from there, it's not enough. You need to verify your data always, because things are changing. What was on one side yesterday is no longer there today. So verify all of your data and take lots of notes while you going through the process of data collection, intel gathering, because again, oftentimes sites gets taken down, or users deleting their accounts, or whatever it might be. So taking screenshots, taking notes to make sure that you can include that in the report. You can show the client how did you get from the point A to point B in your reconnaissance phase is really, really important. Again, don't underestimate the power of manual search. We all know that when it comes to OSINT, there are thousands of different tools available. They all do different things. Some of them are amazing, but some of them are not particularly useful when you're collecting data, collecting OSINT for physical penetration testing. Therefore, manual search, although time consuming, but it is an important step in every preparation for the engagement, because you need to look at pictures, you need to find, I don't know, badge pictures or workstation setups. And unfortunately, tools can't really make that happen for you. And divide responsibilities with your partner, if you're on the team, with your teammates, because first, it's going to save you a lot of time. Second of all, everyone's thought process is different. So you can really find a lot of value in others' ways of, thinking and searching. And together you can really put a valuable data in your pre-engagement.
Absolutely. The first thing, the pre-engagement intel gathering, I want to talk about is just print a map, right? That if you could print a map of your target, you could identify the target's location and surrounding areas, right? It's important because you're able to see the terrain features. Can I approach from the back? Is it heavily wooded? Is there a creek blocking this ingress point? Is there fences? What are some of the surrounding businesses, right? That's also very important. And also you get to look through, is there any doors? Where the doors are? Is there gates? Is there guard shacks? Is there large windows? If you get a really good map, such from Google Earth or Google Maps, you could zoom in and try to pinpoint where the CCTVs are using Street View. You also get the ability to find visible physical security controls. Do they have RFID badge readers next to the doors? Are they push doors? Are they pull doors? Are they just regular knob doors? Right? All this is stuff that you could do pre-engagement intel gathering so that you have a better assessment and an idea of what the client has once you get on site.
Yep.
Z.
Also something to add to that, when you're looking at maps, whether it's Google Maps or Bing Maps or whatever, the reason why you want to look at various resources is because every single map has a different time frame on when that specific street view or pictures were taken. Oftentimes, you can see how certain terrain, certain area looks like in various times of years. And you can do that with Google Earth app. If you have that installed, you can go back and access the archives and see how a certain area looked like, you know, a year ago or in the summer or whatever, if they have that data available. You can also often see delivery trucks or third-party services pulling into that location. So that will give you an extra piece of intel. Maybe this is the company that they are contracting with, or whatever else might be. So always important to check multiple sources when it comes to maps, and really like walk in that street view, get familiar with all of the surrounding areas, because you're gonna need that. On one of the engagements that Rob and I went, we identified a bunch of access points. We identified surrounding areas with the fences and everything else. So that gave us a good idea of how we can approach and where can we start our, you know, descending, so to say, to a physical location for our target. So use multiple.
Yeah. If we would have used multiple views on that engagement and looked back over time, we wouldn't have to wade through that swamp and creek, because in the image it looked like the creek was, you know, a literal small couple inches deep creek. But once we got there and it started raining, we realized that is pretty deep, and it would have saved us, you know, having to go buy new clothes and waterproof clothes just to try to get across that. So that's really important to do, and to look historically over it and forecast weather.
Yep, absolutely. Always check the weather, always plan for any weather changes when you're going in unfamiliar territory, so to say. You might also want to look at various company filings or government records. And the reason behind it is that sometimes in those filings, they use specific corporate language that is specific to particular organizations. So some organizations refer to their employees as associates maybe, or team members. So if you're coming up with the pretext, you want to make sure that it matches the corporate lingual. You can also see sometimes other like key people that are in that specific organization, and also sometimes see like the copy of their signature, or at least the signature that they use to sign certain corporate papers. Again, you can also use that in your pretext. Also, never underestimate the power of not so popular resources to look at some location data, and that could be Yelp if you are going to like a retail or like a small shop, because oftentimes Yelp would contain photos of interior, exterior, and sometimes people just not really paying attention to what are they uploading and not thinking about the risks. But it's good for us as physical pen testers, because we can go on those websites and have literally a good picture of how the property looks inside without even being there. On one of the engagements Rob and I were working on, I found a news piece from like the local news company that recorded pretty much everything on the target's location, like the inside, every office, every hall, everything. So without us even being there, we already knew where to go and how the building is going to look like on the inside. So multiple sources, always. Some not so popular ones like YouTube, Yelp can really help you find the specific information on the target that you're looking for. Another thing that we also always check is various job postings. And the reason behind it is besides, of course, the company culture and kind of like an inside look into technology they use, you can also find out the schedule or the shift changes. And it's important for us because when we go on the physical engagement, we want to know when certain departments are in the office, when people come to work, when they leave, whether that specific business have any guards, are those guards armed? So you want to be prepared as much as you can. Also pay attention to reviews from unhappy employees because they would often name drop managers or other co-workers that they were upset with, and that will give you a lot of good intel that you can use in your pretext or already on the spot during your physical engagement.
Correct. A good example of that is during one of our engagements, we found that one of the employees there was complaining that they brought dogs in, right? And we're thinking, right, are they guard dogs? Are they drug sniffing dogs? And we reached out to a point of contact, and it turns out it was bed bug sniffing dogs. But it brought up a valid point. We had a concern. Hey, we're not going to do a physical if there's guard dogs. We wouldn't have noticed that if it wasn't for digging through some of these reviews from employees. And so that I just want to underline that a little bit. But go back.
Yep.
Sorry.
And also with a lot of other resources like, LinkedIn company page or Facebook company pages, oftentimes employees would comment, they would overshare without even thinking that they're saying something that or sharing a certain information that should not be shared. So pay attention to those comments, really look through to try and find as much information as possible. Again, an example of one of our engagements, we found a business Facebook page. However, it was made by a few of the workers from that specific location. It wasn't an actual authorized social media page by the business. And that happens a lot because not every company has a good social media policy in place explaining if someone can create a business page or not. So we found this page, and since it was ran by the employees only, employees shared a lot of information about an internal hiring process. They shared their emails, direct lines with extensions. So we really hit the gold mine with that Facebook business page, and we collected a lot of our intel from that, and we used a lot of it during our pretext when we were on site. Again, it almost felt like you actually knew everyone when you walked into that building because you saw them on Facebook, and they really did share a lot. When it comes to badges, our go-to are usually Instagram, sometimes Facebook, but Instagram has the geolocation search feature. And if you know your target's address, you can type that in and see if anyone is posting pictures in that specific location. And you can find a lot of good badges, good pictures of badges, workstation setups, and things like that. Again, you can find out who the employees are. You can even match them later on LinkedIn or I don't know, Facebook, whatever your goals and objectives are for that specific engagement. Again, YouTube, lots of videos. I will have an example in the next couple of slides. Check everything that you possibly can when you're getting ready for the physical engagement. Do you have anything to add to that, Rob?
Nope, I think you covered it all.
Awesome. So here I have just an example of a simple OSINT mind map, so to say. It helps you to filter and narrow down all of the various resources that you need to look at before starting your phase 1 reconnaissance, digital reconnaissance. The map is going to differ by, the industry. Again, if your client is in like really super secret industry, of course, maybe they're not going to have an extensive social media presence, or they're not going to list their employees on the website. However, for the major clients, this applies. And that can, again, you can make it in any way possible, but it kind of helps you narrow down all of the areas of search, all of the possible results maybe that you can come across. And a lot of them are available online that you can use kind of like a mind map when you're first starting out. And then as you start to do more and more of those physical engagements or social engineering engagements, you can create your own and find out what resources works best for you. Of course, my favorite is the social media, because I think I find most information on people's profiles that like to overshare. That business Facebook page that I talked about earlier, one of the employees also checked in on Facebook to that business and posted her badge that we copied and then we used on our physical engagement. And she also posted another picture, and her profile is set to public, so anyone can see everything. And she also posted a picture of how the inside of one of the work areas looked like, with the table that contained a bunch of folders. And that's how we were able to find out who their payroll company is, security company is, and another folder even contained passwords. So later on, when we were actually on the physical engagement, we went there and the folders are still on that table. So never underestimate the power of social media searches. And here are just some examples that I found on Google. The first image here with the blueprints, this is actually from the government defense building locally here in California. And I believe the picture was uploaded by the person who did the remodeling work, because that business does not have any other reviews or checkings, because it's not the building where civilians check in often, so to say. But here we are with the blueprints. I also have the screenshot of the call center. It's a video on YouTube, and the call center employee decided to share her workday with the world, including the sensitive patient info that I redacted on the screen. Also multiple workstations, multiple employees, the company that she works for, the call center that she works for. So a lot of this data is out there, and you don't really need to like dig deep to find it. It's literally just like on the surface. Google reviews for business pages are often useful because you can find specific names, specific people who works there, like this review. If you're picking up or dropping off, you know, you need to talk to so and so. So again, manual search is super beneficial with your OSINT process.
And collect a list of names and try to draw them out. Due to the fact that you know, I was doing a physical once, and as we were breaching the building, we weren't able to see the other side, which contained the janitor. The janitor was startled and, "Who are you?" Bob sent us to work on the IT problems that we're having these computers over. I'm Rob in IT. This is so and so in IT, and he really wanted us to work after hours today. Oh, so and so sent you. Okay, cool, right? And then later on during the engagement, we met him again when we were trying to hit another one of our objectives, and he's like, "Oh, you guys startled me again. I forgot you were here." And we're like, "Hey, man, can you let us in? Our keys aren't working, right? We found some keys and we were trying to get in." And he's like, "Yeah, no problem," and just let us in for our objective. So having that list of names and knowing when to use them and gathering them is very, very important.
Yep.
All right, establishing a pattern of life. All right, so why do we want to establish a pattern of life? This is the first part of the engagement when you're setting foot on. Well, one, we want to validate that the OSINT we have collected is accurate. 99% of the time it'll be accurate, but we just want to validate, right? We want to validate the maps, we want to validate the terrain, we want to validate the shift changes, we want to validate everything. You know, we just want to make sure that we have the most accurate and up-to-date intelligence as possible, right? And while we're doing that, we're also going to start developing our initial attack path. And, you know, well, we see this door, there doesn't seem a lot of cameras here, there's got maybe some good egress points, and we'll start developing and having that thought process. We also want to get familiar with surrounding areas in real life. When is the other businesses surrounding there? When do their hours of operation, right? When do they have people coming? When do they go? The last thing you want to do is be caught by an employee of another company while trying to breach your actual contracted target, right? So the best way to do that is just get familiar with the areas. Find out where the employees like to go to eat, right? Just, you know, where's the restaurants, where's the gas stations, where's the police station, surrounding areas, like where's the nearest residential area. You really just want to start working all that around, because visual representation is the best. So when we go on site, we print off a bunch of maps and we start jotting notes down on the maps, right? For example, when we're starting to do shift changes, when we drive by a parking lot in the beginning of the day, we usually jot down 2 or 3 cars that stand out to us. Hey, a lime green Jeep. And there's a Corvette parked over here. The other cars kind of stand out a little bit, right? There's a lifted truck over here. And we'll drive by periodically and try to find out when those cars are no longer there. Right? So what does that do? Well, that lets you know when employees are coming and going. Right. We also want to go in after hours and watch the security guards work. When do they do their rounds? So they do rounds on a very, you know, by the book mentality. Like every 20 minutes, I'm going to walk around this building. Every half an hour, I'm going to walk around this building. Do they walk around the building, or do they have the pole that they tap to the magnets to signify that they were there? Right. It's very important to establish how the security is being done. Do they even have 24-hour security? Do they even do patrols? These are all questions you should know before you even attempt to breach. Another crucial important thing to find out when we're establishing a pattern of life is, where do the employees hang out? Where is the smoke area? How do the employees get from the parking lot to the place of employment. How do they leave the place of employment to go back to the cars, right? Do they have to go in through, funnel in through a desk, through a reception area, right, to get in, or can they use multiple doors? When they leave, do they go hang out in the smoking area, catch up, and then leave? These are very, very important things to know. You also want to conduct train analysis, right? While we were on site, we identified a fence line, but what we didn't realize that earlier, before we arrived, is someone drove a car through the fence, and there was a giant hole in the fence, and next to the client, that separated the client site from a mobile home park. So we could park in the mobile home area, walk through this gaping hole in the fence, and skirt up the fence line, and observe in relative darkness and obscurity. The other thing you want to look at is look at their CCTVs, right? If you could take a picture of their CCTVs and map on a point where they're located, because you should have, your map that you printed out. We keep talking about the map. You can look up the model number if you get a good picture of it, find their angle of view, and actually draw that out on a map. So you could actually see and visualize the angle that the cameras record. Another thing is lights, right? We all know that sometimes lighting is an issue in the parking lot. So you could actually map out where the lighting ends and where it starts, so you could stay on the edge of that lighting. And one of the most important parts here is communication and notes, and actually drawing it on a map. Have one partner, if you're driving around and collecting, have one person that's, dedicated to taking consistent notes. You can never have too much information. And by taking consistent notes, you will have a full picture.
And also to add to that, for the note taking, make sure you take notes and then you start populating it somewhere, like in the Word doc or whatever, preparing for your report. Because putting it till the last moment, thinking that you're going to remember it all, it's not going to happen like that. So make sure you take notes and then you save it somewhere that it would be ready to go to your client's report.
Correct. Tools for establishing pattern of life. I've said it once, and I'll probably say it a billion times. One of the best tools is printing off a map. This is an example of a map pouch that I carry. Actually, I think it's the exact map pouch I carry, where I can actually print off the map, slide it in, and annotate the map as we go to fill it in. Another important piece is a DSLR camera with decent zoom and the ability to take good shots in poor lighting. That allows you to have that standoff from your target while still being able to get those details. Zoom in on those doors, zoom in on those CCTVs, right? Zoom in on those RFID badges. And sometimes when you take pictures of those entrances, you can see stuff. For example, we had a clear shot to one of these doors, but we realized that the door on the other side of the door was an alarm panel. We realized that by taking a long distance DSLR shot with good lens. So we knew right then and there that, hey, it's alarmed. This is the alarm panel. And if we watch and record the first person in, maybe we could get the alarm code so that it doesn't actually go off. And this is very important. You should never bring your breach kit until it's time to breach. So you don't bring your full breach kit at this point. One, it's cumbersome. Two, you kind of look suspicious if you have a backpack full of underdoor tools and, weekend data intercept tools and, lock picks and et cetera, et cetera. So at this point in time, you do not want to have your full kit with you. Go ahead, next slide. Awesome. Analysis and planning. This is the most important phase to us, right? So with this one, we always want to remember the 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents poor performance, right? You should, at this point in time, you should have enough information to sit down and have multiple ingress points plotted and planned, right? You should have multiple breach points identified. You should know where all the doors are, the flow of the people, the shift changes, the security patterns for the security patrols if they have any. So this is really a good time to sit down and have these breach points identified, right? You should also have a breach time, an established time frame for each breach, right? For us, if you roll up onto a door, you should already know, hey, when we get to this door, it should take me no more than 90 seconds to get in here. If it takes me more than 90 seconds, I think we need to roll on to another door, right? Whatever your time frame is, you should know it and stick to it, and identify that out, right, through your intelligence and your recon that you should do. You should have exit strategies for how to get out of the building. If you guys are going to get separated once you're inside, if you have multiple, objectives, but you should always have a good, clear exit strategy, and you should know where you're going to rendezvous with your partner, because you will get separated, and you should have we will be here no later than at this location. That's very important for us. A communication plan with your partner, your project management, and the client point of contact is crucial. It's not uncommon for people to have earbuds in their ears 24/7, 365 nowadays. So just have earpods in your ear, one ear, so you could hear, have the other one put away, and you can swap the batteries, one in while it's charging, and you can have that and be on the phone with your partner. You don't have to say anything, but just having that open line of communication is important. We like to have a bug out word. It's a word that you will not normally use in a course of conversation, and that allows your partner, if they hear it, to be okay. I gotta peel out of here and go to the rendezvous point. Or if you have one of your partners is looking as a lookout and the other person is down doing the breach, if they say this word, it allows the person on the ground to know, hey, stop what I'm doing and let's peel, right? Also, equipment checks. Learning a new piece of equipment should not be done when you're trying to breach a client, right? Finding out that your equipment is broken, that you need to hit this objective, should not be done all right, when you're trying to breach the client. You should make sure all your equipment is functional, and know that you know how to use each piece of equipment before you arrive on site to conduct a breach. Things to remember, one of them that's not on here is always have multiple plans in place. For us, we like to have 3 to 4 different ingress points plotted out, because everybody knows that the first plan doesn't survive initial contact. Also have 3 to 4 different breach points identified, just in case you need to peel or you can't breach your initial door, you have alternatives. Always plan for the what ifs. Sit down with your partner, and I think this is one of the most important parts. Go through the what ifs, right? What if we get stopped by an employee? What do we do? What if we get stopped by law enforcement? How do we act? What do we do? What if we get stopped by security? What if the alarm gets tripped? Recently, we were talking to other employees, and somebody asked me, well, Rob, what is, the farthest what if? All right, you should plan for just under alien invasion, is what I told them. Right? Just because, we have these far-fetched, well, what if, you get stopped by law enforcement or something along those lines. Well, we had a real life environment where we were trying to breach a client, and there was a very important political event happening in the same town at the same time. So stopping and saying, what happens if we get stopped by the Secret Service may seem a little far-fetched to people, but in reality was a possibility there, or the FBI or something along those lines. So, always plan for the what ifs. Rehearsals is also important. We're not talking, military style, like here's a stick house, here's a replica, this is breach. Mental rehearsals is what we're talking about. Just talk through these objectives, talk through the what ifs, For example, hey, we're hitting breach point alpha. I can't get in. What do we do? Okay, we rolled the breach point Bravo, right? And where was breach point Bravo? Well, it's this door right here. Okay, how long do we have on target? Right, blam. Okay, we breach in here, but now we're stopped by security. What do we do? And just talk through that until it all becomes second nature, right? And most importantly, stick to the plan, right? You have a plan for a reason. We understand plans are flexible. You need to have flexible plans while doing this, and you can't be super rigid, but that's why you have multiple plans. That's why you have the what if scenarios, so you can branch down these paths as you hit these objectives, or to get these objectives as you're hitting these obstacles, but still stay on track to the plan. One of the most important things that I think I took away was, after action, we were doing a physical and we had to sit down with the client, and we're sitting down there, and we wanted to talk about the planning and the analysis and this. They're like, but we want to talk about, the actual breach, but we're like, but we really think you should hear about this. And once we presented them with the sure amounts of data that we provided them, they were just 100% taken aback. Like, wow, we didn't realize that our OPSEC was so bad that, that you could get the badge from the internet, that you could just sit in the tree line and get this and watch this. And, that you even knew the layout of our building by watching YouTube videos. They were just blown away that by the time I got to the actual breach, they were impressed by that, but they were more bothered by the amount of data we presented with them that was leaking from their environment that they didn't even think about. So this is why I say analysis and planning is the most important phase.
Yep, I agree. I also wanted to add a little bit on the equipment checks. My funny story of me first time ever using the glasses with the cameras on, and I nod a lot when I talk to someone. So when I was on site, I was talking to this person, and I keep nodding, and in the conversation, we actually had a pretty long conversation. I was there a while, and I was nodding a lot. And then when we came back and we watched the footage, like one of the most important things, because I was actually standing behind her and like looking at her screen to see like what she was using, what type of like email client and things like that. And a lot of things were a blur, really, because everything was just shaking. So really get familiar with everything, find out how everything works, because you don't want to try and learn that on site. And then at the end, when you need to present the video to the client, you want to make sure that it's a nice video and everything is okay. So.
Correct. Awesome. We got 2 more phases to go through before we get to our conclusions. Don't forget your get out of jail free card. Now, we call it a get out of jail free card in this industry and to each other. But in reality, don't call it a get out of jail free card if you get caught. Call it a letter of authorization or an authorization letter, right? People don't really like it when you call it a get out of jail free card, especially law enforcement officers. Just want to stick that to it. Breach, now you could bring your gear, right? Part of your gear is the authorization letter of authorization. Know your plan, stick to it, right? Stick to the timeframes that you have set up. You put them there for a reason. Trust your gut, know when to get out, right? It's very important. We have this sixth sense around us, not me and Zlata, but everybody. So if you just have a feeling, time to bug out, right? You've done it a couple times. Trust your gut, go back, watch, and go from there. Lastly, remember your car keys. I say that because I didn't, and after trying to breach a building and having to go back in and reassess. I realized I left my car keys in our rental truck and had to break into the truck at 2 o'clock in the morning after not a successful first attempt at breaching the building. And the car alarm was going off and drawing mass amounts of attention to us. So I put that in there. Always remember the car keys. Not a good
Yep.
idea to break it to a car.
And also for the authorization letter, make sure that you print out a separate lot of copies of that, and make sure that you have them somewhere on you where it's easily reachable, not only by you, but also, for example, for like the law enforcement officer, that you know exactly where it's at in case if, you know, the operation goes south and you would be stopped. So make sure that you have a lot of them are out there. And also when it comes to the authorization letter, make sure that your client really knows what's happening, when it's going to be happening, and make sure that they are on the phone. So if something is not going the way that it's supposed to be, that they are available and they can really like de-escalate the whole situation. It is important. So talk to your client, talk to your project manager, make sure all of the what ifs are discussed not only with your partner, but also with all of the decision makers and everyone who is involved in the engagement.
Right. Correct. Last phase. This is the one that often gets glamorized in the movies and the TV shows. Site exploitation. To us, it's okay. It's the last thing. You're already inside the building. Hit your objectives. Get out. The longer you stay in there, the greater your chances of being detected. The greater chances things to go wrong. So hit your objectives. Get out. Don't linger, and stick to the plan. If you do those things, it'll be great. Get in, get out. All right.
Yep, stick to the plan always.
Always, right? And now our conclusions. Right? Good OSINT does equal higher success rate, right? If you just go up there and YOLO it, you're not gonna it may work one time, two times, but as your clients increase in difficulty, your success rate's gonna plummet, right? Make sure that you have proper documentation, not just for you, but most importantly, it's for the report. Remember, you're not doing this engagement just for the pure joy and rush of it. You're doing it to help better your client. And the more information you give them in the report, the better they're going to be. Communication is a must every step of the way, right? Make sure that your client knows, hey, we're about to attempt a breach, right? So stay awake, have your phone on, maybe not stay awake, but have your phone on, be ready for a phone call if something goes away. Alert your project manager, hey, we're about to go in the breach, stay on, right? Multiple scenarios, always plan for the what ifs. I cannot underscore this enough. Just having that mental exercise, one, helps prepare you for those what if scenarios, but also helps ease your mind, right? Always remember your get out of jail free card, your letter of authorization. Always check your gear. Always have proper attire, right? You don't want to be wading through a swamp at 2 o'clock in the morning and, nice slacks and dress shoes. Always rehearse before you do anything, right? We're talking about a mental rehearsal here, not a physical one. Stick to the plan, stick to your time frame, know when to disengage, trust your gut, and don't be Leroy Jenkins. For us, 90% of the engagement is intel gathering, pattern of life, establishing a pattern of life, and analysis and planning. Only 10% of the engagement is breach and site exploitation. All right, so let that sink in. 90% is the work that goes in prior to, so the stuff not shown in Hollywood, and then 10% of the work is the stuff Hollywood shows you. Again, don't be Leroy Jenkins.
Absolutely. And also another thing to add when it comes to proper attire, that goes not only to like the clothes that you wear for, physical engagement. And let's say there is no possibility to like run into any people, so you're fine. But also, if you have to kind of like think on your feet, or if you have a certain pretext, make sure that your appearance matches the pretext, and you know, fit in this image of who you pretend to be, because it matters. We all look at people and our initial reaction, you know, when we're trying to kind of like put everything together. When something is slightly off, our brain automatically rings all sorts of signals notifying us like, okay, something is not right. So make sure when you prepare for physical engagement, especially, it has some sort of like a social engineering component in it. When you know that you're going to have to interact with people, multiple people, make sure that you dress appropriately.
Caveat there, if you're a sports fan, do not wear your sports attire there, because that will you know, place you out of there, right? For example, we went on site and there were Cleveland Browns fans, and I'm a 49ers fan for football. And the day before we showed up site, the 49ers just beat the Browns horribly, and it was a dead giveaway.
Yep.
And do we have any questions? And I think, thank you guys for letting us talk to you guys later. Right.
Yes, thank you.